how I set up my charts from scratch. And this is literally about 8 minutes. It's very, very simple. So when you first boot up NinjaTrader, it usually just looks like your control center. You get your control center, you go to new, and you click on chart, and then instrument select. So let's say we're going to take we'll take oil, for instance. CL 823, that's the contract. All right. Nothing else needs to be changed. Everything on the right is default. Okay. We use 1 minute charts. Trading hours, use instrument settings is what it says. But the point I'm making is you don't have to change anything. Just look and see the minute chart is set to a minute chart. Okay it. And then what happens is NinjaTrader creates a blank chart for you. And it looks something like this. You can expand the chart by holding the left mouse down, and you can expand it on the left or the right. All right. If you hold down your control button and the left mouse button, you can move it up and down. All right. So I'm going to set up my charts exactly for news trading. Exactly for news trading. So the first thing I'm going to do, you notice how the price is a little bit close to the right margin. So I'm going to right click the chart. I'm going to click on properties, and right side margin, I'm going to make it 50 instead of 8. Apply it, okay it. It just gives me a little bit more room on the right, okay? Then our goal is to help you set up your charts so that you don't have to buy anything, all right? We want you to be able to trade and do what we do and buy as little as possible, okay? Because everything associated with trading or with anything that's important that you're trying to make a living, it can get expensive, and you want to keep your expenses down. It's like this is a business. You want to keep your expenses low so your profits are higher, all right? So built into the platform, if you right click and go to indicators, the first thing I'm going to do is get the most important indicator that we use, current day OHL, open, high, low. Double click it, apply it, and okay it. And now if you'll notice, now oil, you have this red line, that's the low of the day. You have this green line up top, that's the high of the day. And you have the open, which is kind of like a brown line. Open, right? What was the indicator called? Current day OHL, open, high, low. You can change the colors if you want, but we're just doing it simple. I'm leaving it exactly like that. And I've got, those are called levels. We will be sending recordings, absolutely. Then I'm going to add another important level. NinjaTrader has something called pivots. So why do these go to indicators? Scroll down to pivots, double click it, and bingo. I've got all these plots of the most important pivots that we're going to look at for news trades for now. All right. PP, resistance 1, 2, and 3, support 1, 2, and 3. Their colors are set up. You can set them up any way that you want. It's easy to change them. If you wanted to change the brown PP to black, you just click on the PP, and then the color is brown. I'm just going to make it black, whatever, dark green. Apply it, okay it. And now my pivot right there is dark. All right, so you could see it real good on a light chart. Now I've got a selection of pivots and opened high, low. Why are these important? They're important because a lot of users, a lot of traders look at similar levels. So what happens is price gets pulled into those levels, and it often has expected reactions around those levels. That's why traders use these levels, because there is often expected reactions around those levels that help you set up trades. Okay? Now, one great thing about news trading, event trading, is we don't need lots of indicators because we're trading at the moment of the event. And nothing is fast enough to keep up with the market to create a pivot or to create a high and a low. It's really after news, after and before events, that these levels are important. At the moment of an event, sometimes we really ignore a lot of these levels. Yes, price may burst and stop at a level. And certainly when we look at our setups, more and more we're looking at where the levels are, where the highs and lows are. We know over time that they've become more and more important. But ultimately, to trade news, I'm not using a lot of indicators, and I'm not paying for any of our indicators. Not right now, anyway. There's two other indicators I use that I love. The third one, right-click the chart, click on indicators. Again, another free indicator built into NinjaTrader. It's called Net Change Display. Double-click it and apply it. Now you notice there's a number up here on the top, and as long as the market is open, that number is going to change. Now the crude oil market is very quiet this time of day. I'm going to change my chart to the NQ, which is a little bit busier. The markets are theoretically closed right now, folks, okay? But just as a curiosity, look what happened here. The price 10 minutes ago shot right up to the high of the day, broke through it a little bit, and pulled off it. A very common behavior that sometimes takes place at a high of the day, a pullback. Just keep that in mind. That's why levels are interesting. But what I was saying, I'm adding two more indicators. We've got this number up here that seems to change whenever it feels like it. It's called Net Change Display. That number changes based on the price of the NQ instrument that is on the chart and what its price was 6 p.m. last night. That price is determined by, when you click the chart on data series, when we first set up our chart for NinjaTrader, we were in the data series. And there is a choice called trading hours. When you just use the default, it says use instrument settings, and that defaults to 6 p.m. last evening. That's when it calculates your pivots from and your levels. You can also change that for all sorts of different templates for trading times. We only use two. We use instrument settings and we use default 24/7. They're just different times of day that the indicators calculate from. Many, many traders calculate from 6 p.m. the previous evening because that's when the markets reopen after they close in the end of the day, afternoon, end of the day we call it, okay? The markets reopen for what they call the Globex overnight trading, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then, you always hear them say, oh, the markets are opening 9:30 in the morning Eastern time, markets are opening. That's when, in theory, the markets are open. That's like official market open time, 9:30 Eastern time. But futures trade almost 24/7. They only take a very short amount of time off. They actually trade 23 hours, if I'm correct. From 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, many of the futures contracts close. Okay, So that net change display is a number that calculates from 6 p.m. last night, and it gives me an idea how bullish or bearish, how volatile the NASDAQ has been up until the moment we came into the trade room. That gives us an idea of what's going on in the markets, right? If it's super, super volatile, that might tell us, hey, the markets have been moving a lot since last night. It might say it's very quiet. It's not a very much movement. Now, the net change display, you can choose to put that number on the bottom right. So how do you change an indicator? If you want to, right-click the chart, click on indicator, highlight the indicator that's on your chart, net change display, and I could change the unit of measure, and I could just make it ticks. So I could see how many ticks did it move. Remember, each little tick is $5. So, but what's interesting about the NASDAQ is we do the NASDAQ in points, but we'll get into that some other time. You don't have to worry about that right at this moment. Points, but more important, I might not want that number up on the top because it gets in the way of charts and other data. I like to look at the location of that indicator, bottom right. So that's all I'm really changing. Bottom right, apply it, okay it, and the number will show up as soon as the market moves and it can make a calculation. So there's our net change display. The NQ is 21 points away from where it was 6 p.m. last night. That's not that much, okay? Years ago, that was a lot, but it's not that much these days, okay? One other thing that I put on my charts, but we're really not using it that much these days. I probably don't even need to show it to you because we don't use it that much, but I love it. When I learned to trade, I was taught by Hubert Centers and John Carter. Back in the day, they were called Trade the Markets. They split up. They're not trading together anymore, and they just created two separate companies. But they popularized an indicator called the squeeze. And it's a really useful indicator, and there's a whole bunch of free ones floating around in NinjaTrader forums and stuff. And I found a free one that I used that simulates they were TradeStation traders, and they were using the platform TradeStation. That's where the squeeze was popularized, but it's been converted over to NinjaTrader. But I'm glad something happened when I tried to put it on my chart. There's a little bug in all of the squeeze indicators. It's not supposed to have all of the momentum bars exactly the same length. So if you install a squeeze in NinjaTrader and it does that, just go back to the indicator, highlight the indicator, and one of the settings is called auto scale. If it's checked, uncheck it. If it's not checked, check it, and then apply it and okay it, and now your squeeze will work perfectly. It's just an anomaly of setting the squeeze up in NinjaTrader. Here's the whole point, folks. My charts are now set up for you to trade every trade that we take. You could take the trade right now. And, I promise you can find a free squeeze so you don't have to pay for it. There's one, but I want to be 100,000% transparent. We are a lifetime NinjaTrader subscriber, our company. I trade our company account, okay? That allows us to have another indicator. So in other words, if you subscribe as a lifetime Ninja customer, you have access to one other very nice indicator. And there are many free it's called the VWAP, VWAP, volume weighted average price. It's an excellent indicator. It's an order flow indicator, all right? And we have a setup for it. That's not the setup, okay? The one that we use is a line. I'll just bring my normal chart back so I don't have to spend a lot of time setting up my charts. So give me 1 second to just bring my charts back quick and easy. 2 secs. Now, one thing I will say while I'm loading up my charts, people go crazy over purchasing indicators, thinking that an indicator is the magic elixir towards being a professional trader. I trust me as someone who has spent and thrown away thousands and thousands of dollars on indicators that stink, okay? That stink. Don't overbuy a million indicators. You don't need them, okay? You don't need a million indicators. Most indicators are lagging. In other words, they don't even keep up with price. Yes, there are some great indicators. There are some great ones. But don't get into the habit of overbuying a million indicators thinking that that's the magic elixir. They're not the holy grail. Just get a couple of indicators that really help you and are fit your DNA. You know, some people love to look at volume. Some people, there are some really good indicators built into NinjaTrader. They have some very nice volume indicators, okay? They have a volume up and down indicator that's very useful. And you could see volume at various times of day. You don't need to go out and buy a million indicators. You just don't, okay? Gene is asking, where is the TTMS? It's not part of NT8. Gene, it's an indicator we found in some of the forums that are out there for NinjaTrader. It is an indicator that we are not currently using it for any of our trades. It's just an indicator because I was taught always looking at the squeeze. It's just one of the things I like to look at. It keeps me sane, okay? Because I was taught to I always looked at it. And you could always send me a email, help@10minutetrades.com. In fact, let me put that email up there for everyone.